Greetings and welcome to this week's version of the Fresh Fire International Ministries blog, or vlog as some people call the audio version. I'm Pastor Janice Fareed Hardy, and this week's title is That Widow Can't Even Stand in Your Shadow. That widow can't even stand in your shadow. Why does God often pursue the most unlikely people to give them special favor? Even aside from Jesus' wild disciples, what about the widow of Zarephath? The ancient city of Zarephath was not in Israel. Today it would be considered a part of Lebanon. That widow was not Israelite, but rather what the Israelites would have called a foreigner. So God sent one of his greatest prophets, Elijah, to go save the life of someone who was not even part of Abraham's covenant. You know something? We see no evidence of her praying, sending for Elijah, or even asking anyone for help. In fact, when Elijah obeyed God and went to her, she told him, and I'm quoting 1 Kings 17:12, "As the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread or food, only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil in a jar. And see, I'm putting together some sticks so that I can go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." She was preparing to die. Her husband had died, and there was a drought, so there was no way to grow or to get food. Her only hope was that she and her son would eat their last little piece of bread and die together. And nobody cared. But God cared. And God heard a woman who had never been in a prayer line, or who even knew his name or power or the love of God. Did she even know that God existed? God heard no words. What he heard was her heart and her condition. And this was not the first or the last time that God answered unasked prayers in the Bible or in the world. God heard the most unlikely and most invisible person and gave her and her seed favor. The prophet Elijah told her, and I'm quoting 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 13 through 14. Elijah told her, "Do not fear. Go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first and bring it to me, and afterward make some for yourself and your son. But thus says the Lord of Israel, the bin of flour shall not be used up, nor shall the jar of oil run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the earth." And you know something? That's what happened. The flour and the oil did not run out. Now, Elijah was not putting himself first. Instead, he needed to pull forth at least a mustard seed amount of faith for her so that she could see that it was God who was performing that miracle and not the prophet. She stepped out on her little wobbly faith, and God stepped in with his magnanimous power. How much more is that true for you? You know God's name and how to pray in some fashion. And since you are still living, surely you have seen God's hand move in your or someone else's life. At any time of the day, every day, you are one of God's walking miracles. Like the widow, you too may get weary in certain situations, but unlike that foreign widow, you don't have to wait for a prophet to show up. In every situation, God is with you and watching over you more closely than he did for that widow. You are God's child. Jesus promised you, and I'm quoting Matthew 28:20, "And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." Jesus is saying there is never a second, a microsecond, there is never anything when I am not with you. And you know something? That's just the way it is. That widow can't even stand in your shadow because God is with you always. So God bless you. Thank you for joining us for this week's blog. And we hope you will join us again next week and share this little nugget of inspiration, okay, to encourage someone else along their way. Thanks for joining us again. We love you. And if you need to reach us, you can reach us on our website, www.ffIministries.com.